Hey, everybody. Welcome to Daily Distinction. Really glad that you're here. Thank you for being here on what for a lot of folks is a holiday, right? So we're going to try to treat this like a weekend edition, going to be a shortened version because some of us are enjoying a early 4th of July here. It's, everything about 2020 is different, right? It's a leap year. The 4th of July falls on a Saturday, which means we sometimes celebrate, or some of us are celebrating on the 3rd. So it's just kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, why would we think that anything else about 2020 would be normal? The awesome Ernest is checking in from beautiful Lubbock, Texas. It's great to see you, Ernest. I really appreciate it. You're using today to work on your business. I love that, Ted. If you're not familiar with the line, it's part of what we've talked about. Ted's one of the great folks that has attended the Ultimate Business Summit. And we talk about the importance of working on your business, not always working in your business. And Ted is saying those good words, and he's using today to work on his business. Ernest, thank you for sharing. That's how we grow, as more folks sharing this and continuing to expand the number of viewers that we've got. So we really, really appreciate that. By the way, you'll check me, you'll notice me checking down here because I'm also streaming live on Instagram. And maybe you've heard me say before, if you watch on Instagram, one of the challenges with that is because, it wants vertical rather than landscape. And one of the challenges with that is that they don't get to see your comments when they're posting up here and things like that. But thank you for watching on Instagram. If you're checking in. Oh, well, Ernest, I'm just glad you did the replay. I appreciate that. It's really fascinating to me. I sit here and do this every day, and then I look at the numbers, and the numbers, we got a couple thousand folks watching on the various channels on the replays, even though we might only have, 15 to 30 watching it live. I think the biggest we've got up to is, 50 or some odd viewers watching live. So thank you for mentioning that. And hi to Sunny and hi to Ann, both watching on Instagram live. Appreciate that. Okay, so hey, Pam, good to see you from Fishers, Indiana, I'm assuming today. So thank you for being here as well. I read something today. I was going to go a whole different direction, but I read something this morning that I thought was really, really interesting. It was a column that said, did we really need independence? Do we really need to have a war and gain our independence? I never questioned that before. Grew up taxation without representation and all of the things that we hear. Is why we celebrate the 4th of July. We celebrate when we declared our independence from Britain. And this article, I just raised something I'm throwing. I don't have an answer for it. I'm just throwing it out there. I just thought it was really fascinating because it said, do we really need total independence? There are 16 countries that are still a part of the British system, and Australia and Canada seem to be doing just fine. Did we really need it? I'd never considered that before. I'd just taken for granted. Of course we do, right? So Ernest does watch parties as well. I love it. Scott, great. I'm glad that you're here. Jeffrey, yes, it's Interdependence Day is what we're talking about today. So thank you for catching that. So that just struck me for some reason. I had never, as a proud American, I had never questioned that. But then you stop and think, I've been so privileged to be to Australia so many times and get to Canada all the time. And that had never really occurred to me. Man, those places are doing just great, right? But our declaration sure started one. Exactly, Ernest. At that moment, they didn't send over a bunch of negotiators, did they? They sent troops. So it's kind of on both of our hands. Weldon, great to see you. Thank you for being here. So I just wanted to throw that out. I thought that was a very, very interesting question to ask as we head into this holiday for those of us here in the United States. And the other aspect is to remember that part of why we celebrate our independence is because when we say independence, what does it do? It inspires our notions and our thoughts of self-reliance and of freedom and of strength. Those are the qualities that we have always associated with our independence. And those are really, really important and really, really critical for us to focus on. But I shouldn't say but. In addition to these notions of self-reliance and of strength and of freedom, along with that, we also know that freedom isn't free. There has been a price paid for that freedom, dating back to the Revolutionary War, dating back to the War of 1812, dating back to on and on throughout World War I and II and the Cold War, all the other things that's going on. And so it wasn't up to you. Jefferson didn't give you a call. So we are just the result of all those things. That's it. Yeah, there you go. It's like Ernest from Lubbock, Texas. It's like Texas secession. It's not that we need it, but we did it. And oh, hey, thanks, Jace. Long time no see. Glad you're doing great. Yeah, I've got a few books behind me that I might have had a role in, a part to play in that. Yeah, so appreciate you noticing that. The reason I wanted to mention that freedom isn't free with this Independence Day is that as we go through such challenges here in our country, as we deal with some of the things that are happening in this incredible year in which we're currently living, we recognize that the freedoms that we have here in the United States were gained through sacrifice. Independence Day celebrates our independent nation, right? Not being tied to other nations. But I think as we remember that freedom isn't free, it kind of ties in with other holidays like Veterans Day and Memorial Day and others that talk about the sacrifice that has been provided to us by others. But yet, particularly with what's going on in our nation right now and what's going on in the world right now, we know that there are some folks fighting for our freedoms who aren't wearing military uniforms. They're dressed as nurses in medical care centers. They are dressed as administrators at nursing homes. There are people who are helping take care of us and our family members who are giving us the ability maybe to regain our independence if we've been ill, who have helped us in so many different ways. And Jeffrey, you're right. Freedom isn't free, and oppression is never more than a generation away. And if we don't believe that's the case, there are examples in history, Germany being one of them in the 30s and 40s, about how rapidly it can change. Yes, absolutely right, Lewis. Right, incredible. So I want to make certain that as we're talking about celebrating our independence as a nation, that we also recognize how many people are involved with that. Jeffrey, absolutely. And you think about the history and just how many people over the course of time have been subjugated to that. And even as we see it now with what's going on with sex slavery and things like that still continue to this day, the freedom that we have is just, we take it for granted like oxygen. We really do. We take our independence, we take our freedom for granted like oxygen. And if you're ever in a situation where you can't breathe, the things that sometimes we take most for granted are the things that we really should be stopping and appreciating the most. So that's why I said when I first posted about this show that this is Happy Interdependence Day. In other words, we'll celebrate independence tomorrow. What if we took a day and celebrated interdependence? So I put that up, I wrote that down. Then I started doing some research and I found that there were a lot of folks that were talking about Interdependence Day. I had not seen that. Matter of fact, there were some folks that proposed a bill in Congress that we name September 12th as Interdependence Day. Why September 12th? The day after 9/11 and the day that we realized as a country that we have to come together. This was proposed several years ago, and it really went nowhere. But you know, the more I think about it, the more that I think that it's kind of a cool idea, right? That we talk about that interdependence. When I say that, what I mean is we should start thinking of all the areas in our lives where we have needed the help of others. Many of us have been through a situation where a family member has been in hospice. Man, those folks are angels that work in hospices. We have benefited through the work of our doctors. We have benefited through work of fire departments and police departments. We have benefited through, you know, so many things. And I think there is something to be gained, even as we see such disarray in our nation, to recognize and to be thankful for those upon whom we depend. Now, Randall, isn't that an interesting concept? Without 1776, what would happen to us, and where would we be, right? Yes, absolutely, Charles. And thank them for their service. Thank them for their service, because, and I know that you do, and please let me join you with that. Ernest, a great point. Freedom is only held by the vigilant. Yeah, it's great. I appreciate that, Jeffrey. Thank you, because as we talk about independence, here we are as a nation, and we seem so, what's the right term? Disunited, ununited? That here in our United States, we do depend so much on the benefit of others. And it just struck me, you know, we should be celebrating the role of those folks who are on the front lines for us right now. And by the way, you know, that could even be protesting to make something, peacefully protesting to make powerful changes. Because in today's world, independence is a myth. It's total myth. Our economy depends upon foreign trade. Everything that you do depends upon the work of someone else. I'm sitting here with my really cool Just 10 Speakers Yeti mug, having a great cup of coffee. How many people are involved in that? From the coffee farmers to the people that make the cups, to those that package it, to the truck driver that hauled it to where it was shipped to me by Amazon to get to my front door. I mean, the chain is absolutely remarkable. You can't have a cup of coffee without depending on somebody else. Mike, thank you. You have made a great point. I wasn't even going to say, I hadn't even thought it. Creating distinction. No one creates a distinction on their own, right? It requires help from others. It requires the buy-in of your prospects and your customers. And you can't create distinction on an island. We are all so dependent on others. Ernest, yeah, swap two letters, United becomes untied. And I worry for our country. So again, it's going to be kind of an abbreviated version, but it's important that we understand. My neighbors think Juan Valdez every morning I have my coffee. I bet. There you go. But as a buddy of mine, Mark Mayfield, says, remember those coffee commercials? And you know, the husband, these were in times of such stereotypical sexist role models, but the husband would come downstairs heading out to work, and the wife was making breakfast, and he stops for a minute and goes, "Honey, do I smell coffee?" And do you remember the commercial? I should have found this on YouTube. Ernest, you just made me think of it. "Honey, do I smell coffee?" Remember what she did? She opens up the pantry door, and inside the pantry door is Juan Valdez and his mule. My guess is, as Mark Mayfield said, if you got a mule in your closet, what you're smelling in the morning ain't coffee. And if you go downstairs and your spouse has the Colombian coffee dude hiding in the pantry, maybe it ain't coffee that he's bringing to your house, right? So anyway, the point is that you can't even have a cup of coffee without being interdependent on others. Back on July 4th, 1976, I'm a student, but I had the chance with other students to be in Washington, D.C. And we went down, we took blankets and everything, and we left at like 4 a.m. And we got down to what's called the mall. And it's not like a shopping mall, if you know Washington, D.C. It's that grassy area that runs from the U.S. Capitol past the Washington Monument to all the way to Lincoln Memorial. And we laid our blankets down, and we spent the entire day of July the 4th right smack dab in the middle of it in Washington, D.C. It was such an incredible celebration. I remember so many things about it. I remember when it was over, we had to walk back to Alexandria where we were staying, which was a long way. I remember just the terrorism hadn't happened at that time, so nobody worried about anything like that. The thing you worried about is, were you going to be able to have enough water and enough food and all that to enjoy the day. The fireworks that night were beyond description. Off in the distance, you can see the White House, and you can see people milling around looking at the White House, and President Ford and Betty Ford were there. It was just such an incredible day. And one of the things that didn't occur to me until today, when I was putting this together, is that there on the 200th birthday of our nation, we were just 4 years past Vietnam. We were just 2 years past Watergate. Some of the most divisive and difficult times in our country were barely in our rearview mirror. But yet we celebrated in unity in spite of all those challenges. And so what I'm trying to suggest is, as bad as things look today in so many ways, as difficult as things look today in so many ways, because of the interdependence, because of those nurses that are on the front lines, because of those scientists right now that are researching to try to find a vaccine or a cure, because of all of those folks, we are able to celebrate our independence. So it is our interdependence that truly creates the independence that we love and enjoy. Oh, you're so right, Pam. Mark is one of the funniest guys I've ever known, and one of my great friends. Mark and I go back to our teens. That's how long we've been there. Bruce, what a great question. Is there such a thing as a self-made woman or man? And I don't think so. I don't think so. In fact, so I can't remember who said this, but one of the things it reminds me of is if there's a self-made man, you need to suggest he needed some subcontractors, which I always thought was a good thing. If there's anything that it proves when someone claims they're a self-made man, it's they needed subcontractors. I love that. Kit says, too many people today have no awareness of history. Sad. There is a great post in this morning's Washington Post, great column from George Will. And I don't always agree with George Will, but part of what he is suggesting is that the intelligentsia of today don't know how to think. When you're intelligentsia, you don't know how to, in other words, they cannot deal with opposition. Great column in today's Washington Post. Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. So I think one of the things that we could do today is to celebrate those upon whom we depend to make our lives better. Let's celebrate those upon whom we depend. Let's celebrate an Interdependence Day today as we get ready to celebrate our independence tomorrow. If we do that, we're making progress toward reuniting our United States. Ernest, I like this. Behind every self-made man is a woman who whipped him into shape. There you go. I've heard that behind every successful man is an astonished mother-in-law. I don't know. That's not true in my case, right? But anyway, uh, so good to be with you today. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, Scott Stratton just jumping in here on Instagram, and Laura Steele from Indianapolis Broadcasting, who I've listened to and admired for so long, said hello as well. So thanks for those folks on Instagram. Thank you for watching on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, before we go today, just one quick reminder. It's a save the date thing. The website will be up soon, but the Ultimate Business Summit is coming August 13 and 14. August 13 and 14, we are virtual this year with the Ultimate Business Summit with Larry Winget and Randy Pennington and myself. Also, we got some incredible special guests that we're going to be announcing. It's all virtual. Registration is under $100 for our 2-day program. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. Hope have a chance to see you there. Also, the quick reminder before we go, the free resources on Distinction Nation are going to be coming down in a couple of weeks. So if you haven't downloaded our 14-day audio program on how to create personal distinction, if you haven't downloaded the ebook, you really need to do it because it's free now and going to go behind a paywall in a couple of weeks. So please take time to do that. Also, I'll be here. We do this 7 days a week, but coming next week, huge announcement about the podcast. I'm really excited. We just got the deal signed, got the deal done. So huge announcement about the podcast that I do coming next week. If you don't listen to Project Distinct, please check that out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or however you listen to podcasts. It's on all of them. And I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow on the 4th of July. Scott, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Thanks to everybody. Looking forward to UBS. Ted, it's gonna be strange not to have everybody in Vegas, but it's gonna be a great time, a great experience. Reynaldo, thank you. Happy Independence Day, everybody. Happy Interdependence Day to everybody as well. And I will talk to you again tomorrow right here on Daily Distinction.